Greetings, Scotty Reid here with a Black Talk Radio News Brief. I'm going to do my best to keep it brief. We have reports coming out that Susan Rice, who is a former national security advisor to Barack Obama during the Barack Obama administration, a key figure in that administration, especially concerning his foreign affairs. Now she is trying to minimize the moral outrage in the United States by trying to affix blame to Russia. A lot of people are not having that Russia conspiracy theory, which was used in 2016 to explain away why Hillary Clinton ran such a lackluster campaign, while ignoring key swing states and ignoring key constituents with solid plans. And she just didn't turn out enough voters to or inspire enough people to compete with the people that Donald Trump had inspired with his racism and other dog whistles that he was blowing. So, but she's trying to blame Russia for the protests. So Yahoo News is reporting, this comes from Yahoo News, and this is the headline. Susan Rice blames foreign actors for stirring George Floyd protests right out of the Russian playbook. A former Obama advisor, Susan Rice, blamed the violent protests that rocked major American cities over the weekend on foreign actors and even suggested that Russia could be involved in stirring them up. I'm not reading the intelligence today or these days, meaning the national security intelligence briefings. In other words, Donald Trump is not sharing those with her. And why should he? She's not. Why should he? She's not in government anymore. So that's what she means by she's not reading the intelligence today. But based on my experience, this is right out of the Russian playbook. Rice, who served as national security advisor to President Obama, said in a CNN interview on Sunday. But we cannot allow the extremists, the foreign actors, to distract from the real problems we have in this country that are long-standing, centuries old, and need to be addressed responsibly. Now, she's not being responsible in what she's saying. And and again, these people leave government, neoliberals, neoconservatives, and they find very lucrative careers in propagandizing on corporate media. So, I mean, Susan Rice is an expert in spreading lies. She was a party to blaming at the beginning of the 2011 so-called civil war in Libya. She blamed the attack on the U.S. consulate, which claimed the life of a U.S. ambassador who was using that consulate to coordinate with militias, so-called rebels, most likely ISIS and Al-Qaeda operatives, but certainly jihadists, when it came under attack and he was killed, and they blamed it on a video. Okay, they blamed, him getting killed on protests because some video came out. So now she's blaming Russia for taking advantage of this video coming out, shot by a U.S. citizen, of the murder of George Floyd, and now trying to blame Russia and say, hey, they're behind, or suggest to you that they're behind a lot of this stuff that's going on. But don't believe it. This is a professional liar who comes from an administration that told a whole lot of lies, cost a whole lot of lives. All right. And so they don't care. Here's one of her big lies to convince the American public to get behind the Obama administration's executive war on Libya, a U.S. ally in the war on terror up to the very moment that you attacked them. So anyway, she spread lies that Gaddafi was supplying his troops with Viagra and encouraging them to go on mass rape sprees. Now, the experts, as they call them, foreign affairs experts were very skeptical about her claims, and she offered no evidence other based on an Al Jazeera report that a couple of soldiers that doctors had treated had Viagra in their pocket. And so, that's where she just took that and just took it as gospel truth, or saw it used in telling this big lie. But she was one of the advocates of the neoliberal invasion and bombing of, Libya in the Obama administration. Let me see. An article from The Guardian reads a UN diplomat at the closed session on Thursday said, I was in the room when she mentioned Viagra. The remark did not cause a stir at the time. It was during a discussion about whether there is a moral equivalence between the Gaddafi forces and the rebels. Yeah, again, because these rebels were committing heinous crimes. And most of the human rights abuses that was committed in that nation were proxies of Western governments like the United States and France. All right. So there was no moral equivalence at the very least. And I don't believe that all of a sudden Gaddafi was this immoral leader when he was fighting in the war on terror against these jihadists. So how could you even again, people, you have to read, you have to gather information. Libya was an ally, began under the Bush administration, I believe in 2005, when Libya or Gaddafi decided not to seek chemical weapons or weapons of mass destruction, as they say. And he came out of the cold, so to speak, and he became an ally, also being the first nation to issue an arrest warrant for Osama bin Laden for embassy attack in Africa that killed some people. All right. So she's a known liar. She's a professional liar, and she doesn't care about black bodies, because what happened after the quote unquote Arab militias and rebels took over Libya, or they're still fighting each other now, all these years later. But what happened? Okay, they brought slavery back to Libya. All right, they brought slavery back to Libya. Black people getting enslaved by Arab militias, or it really doesn't matter the skin color of the perpetrators, but let's just say slavers, enslaving all these African migrants, and you do nothing when you are the cause of the instability, disruption of the most prosperous nation in Africa, with a seat on the UN. At one time, through the rotating seat on the African Union Commission. So I ain't trying to hear nothing Barack Obama or anybody from the Obama administration has to say about this rebellion against 21st century slavery and human trafficking and the violence of these slave catchers. I ain't trying to hear nothing they say. They got blood on their hands. They are not moral people. So they just need to have some seats and sit down. Let's listen to just a couple of minutes of this 42-minute report France 24 put out through its English channel on YouTube.
A slave auction in 2017. Think about it. The video aired last week on CNN confirming what had come out in a long stream of reports and testimony out of Libya, that people were preying on sub-Saharan migrants to sub-Saharan Africans trying to make their way to Europe, a nation with rival governments and a whole myriad of militias, has been the subject of lawlessness since the 2011 fall of Muammar Gaddafi. But this reportedly happened no further than the capital, Tripoli. After the outrage that's seen demonstrations and the recalls of ambassadors, what next? What more should be done? The case highlights the vulnerability of an estimated 390,000 migrants who've made the perilous journey to Libya in the hopes of reaching Europe. Europe, which is working with local authorities in Libya to prevent them from crossing the Mediterranean. And if EU citizens don't want to welcome more refugees and migrants, Germany's recent elections prove that, does that mean that Europe's leaders have to instead sort out Libya? We're going to be asking about the...
All right, we're going to leave it there. I will put the links to any of the articles that I'm citing here, so it'll be in the podcast description. Check those out. So, I'm not trying to hear anything Susan Rice has to say. The administration she worked for, and she played a key role on slavery now existing and been existing since 2011 in Libya. and while they've said nothing about it. Black lives has not ever mattered really to the U.S. government nor any of its Western allies. And the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. Please continue to support programs like this, and you can find more programming on blacktalkradionetwork.com, which is managed by the North Carolina-based nonprofit Black Talk Media Project. We don't get corporate subsidies. We don't get grants from the U.S. government to produce the media that we produce, or to teach people how to produce media and be the media that they want to see. It all comes from those who listen to the podcast, view the videos, and read the articles. If you are not a regular donor, become one today. Any amount will help. With that said, peace and blessings to all. Be safe.